Hi guys, I'm George Dahl. Welcome back to my film journal. Today I'm talking about the 1976 science fiction film Logan's Run, directed by journeyman filmmaker Michael Anderson and starring Michael York and Jenny Agutter. The last time I saw this movie was at a midnight screening in college at the sort of student film theater. And it was at midnight, so everyone was a little bit tuned up, and there was a lot of laughing and derision about how cheesy the film looked and how goofy and unrealistic the special effects were, and overall, like how many holes you can poke in the high concept plot of the movie. And for the most part, in my rewatch, I can't entirely fault the kids and the theater and the audience for laughing at the time, because the movie is a bit dated. It's a pre-Star Wars science fiction film, and it doesn't have any of like sort of the intellectual gravitas of something like a Silent Running. However, upon rewatching it, the movie is rather prescient, or at least has a lot to say on the decline of society, on something that we might be moving towards. Not sort of decline in the way of capital or industry or standard of living, but more like a moral and spiritual decline. The movie is a good jumping off point to speak about contemporary issues, so please hang with us. We really just jumped right in. So without further ado, let's get started.
MGM takes you into a new age of adventure in the first motion picture of the 23rd century. Logan's Run. It begins where imagination ends.
Logan's Run is a movie about a character named Logan 5, who's a super police cop in the future in this domed city where it's like the ultimate mecca of hedonism and leisure. Unfortunately, though, you have to ceremonially die at age 30, right? The AI system or whatever, holds up this decadent society can't handle the overpopulation. So basically you're put to death at 30. And this is a fact that everyone readily accepts. If you decide to buck this trend and escape and try to eke out more life, then people who are called Sandmen, like Logan 5 and his friend, they'll hunt you down and kill you with their laser gun that shoots like fire. And basically, as we see in so many science fiction stories that deal with the idea of a future cop, a future hunter, a future assassin, the hunter becomes the hunted, and Logan finds himself in the position of someone on the other end of the Sandman's gun. Once he gets outside and realizes the ruins of the former world and the idea that you are allowed to get old and that pair bonding for life is possible in the form of marriage, he has a different perspective on humanity, and he comes back to reveal to everybody in the compound that everything around them is a total lie.
You don't have to die. Well, no one has to die at 30. You can live. Live. Live and grow old. I've seen it. She's seen it.
When they go to die, they don't think of it as death. They've been told that it's rebirth.
Right.
You go in this thing and you get a chance at being reborn into the world. So to them, it's not like, oh, you're not dying. You've lived a great life. Now you get to live another one.
Well, that's one of the other things, Vince, and I'll shut up here in a second. But about this movie is that there are so many things in it. There's so much that they're trying to explain to you, and it gets kind of muddled. Or we're going to the ceremony where you wear a hockey mask and fly up in the air and explode, but then you can be reborn, I guess, right? And there's so many things you think about in this film that the plot holes, and that's a horrible term, I hate to say that, but the movie sort of collapses under the weight of its own high concept if you start thinking about it hard enough, right? Okay, you don't have to work, you can just have sex and drink all day, then why would anyone want to be a Sandman and be a cop and work? Why would Farrah Fawcett want to work at the plastic surgery factory? Like, who's mopping the floor? Like, what's going on here? Like, what is the purpose of this system perpetuating itself?
Yeah.
Like,
who's maintaining this thing? That was one of the big plot holes that I had issue with. Like, who are the people that are like, who started this civilization? Is there like a mustache twirling guy in the background doing this, or is it just like, hey, we built this, let's keep it? Like, who's maintaining this civilization?
No, it's a decentralized, perpetuating society on autopilot of just stupidity.
This is a movie that I feel like has gotten more relevant as time has gone on, because we are in as you said, like a hedonistic society where we're told, oh, don't worry about what's going on behind the curtain. Just, be gluttonous, receive all the pleasure in the world you have. I mean,
maximization of choice, right? At the expense of responsibility or like perpetuating your society in a positive way. But also it's like the ultimate super egalitarian society in the way that people just gleefully murder people who turn 30 because they have been told that's the way that the system works. And if you were to try to eke out more life or escape, that's somehow selfish.
Yeah.
How that's a threat to the system, it's never. They don't even know. They don't even care.
Oh yeah,
and that's sort of
good point.
You know,
like what exactly is being risked if you go outside?
Who knows? But I mean, you have in this movie the character played by Richard Jordan, who is a great actor, who was in many great films of the 70s and 80s. He was great in the Yakuza. He was great in The Friends of Eddie Coyle, Dune, David Lynch's Dune. But he's a guy who is such a hardcore bureaucrat that he sees that everything's bullshit. He gets out of the dome, right? Logan repeatedly tries to tell him, hey, don't you get this whole thing's a sham? And he still will not let it go because he's based his identity on this job, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm a Catholic, and we Catholics tend to view the world in heavenly pleasures and earthly pleasures, or as we like to say, storing your treasure up in heaven, and doing things on this earth that are actually going to replenish and fulfill your soul more than just your body. And like I think the duality of the life outside the dome and the life within the dome is fascinating because it's very much in line with how I think Catholics view the world. Like in this dome, it's literally a shopping mall. Like, do you realize that? Like,
literally, yes, it was literally a shopping mall
with all this.
It's called Dallas Center Market.
That's hilarious.
They tore it down in 2006, but at the time it was the biggest mall in the country.
There's literally a convenience store where you go inside and there's just a giant psychedelic orgy going on. Like, totally. You can't get more worldly and grotesque than that, honestly.
I'm watching it and I see that Jenny Agutter shows up on a little teleporter screen in Michael York's apartment. And she's like, well, I really don't want to have sex. And he goes, well, why did you put yourself on the circuit? And I'm like, oh, God damn, this movie predicted Tinder. He literally swipes left and right. And it's like, no, yes.
She's the one, she belongs to this group of like underbelly people who start questioning everything and they have to live in secret. But like, well, what's the deal with that? That was presented like in a very vague way. And
well, they reminded me of like the resistance to the totalitarian world, like in Demolition Man, the Dennis Leary underground people they opted out of society and now they live underground in the trash. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And I think the movie would have been better served had they hooked up with them to plot a revolution rather than just like walk onto matte paintings of the Abe Lincoln Memorial covered in moss.
Yeah. They don't really, they serve a purpose to like get Logan and
for an action scene.
Jessica, that's her name. They serve a purpose to get Logan and Jessica from one place to another. That's what they do. Like they basically like, oh, escape that way, and then they die. To your point,
it's like a totally
becomes
missed
an
opportunity.
action scene between Francis and Logan.
After we get out of the world, the movie becomes far less interesting.
You think so?
Because it just kind of shuffling them from one episode to another. Here they are with the underground people. Here they are with the ice cave robot guy.
Welcome, humans. I am ready for you.
Oh my God.
Remember that?
I thought I was watching another movie for a second.
You could cut that scene out entirely and miss nothing. Yeah, it was brutal.
Like, what purpose does that, other than showing that people have been frozen who've tried to escape? I guess we're supposed to, raise the stakes of them trying to journey outside. That like many have tried to get past this point, but it was done in such a ridiculous. I thought I was watching Doctor Who.
It looked like a Doctor Who. It looked that bad,
mm-hmm.
Right? It looked horrible. And I was thinking when I first saw it, I was like, now, by the way, if I remember correctly, when I was at my college screening, this is where everyone had a lot of their big laughs, is during this robot sequence because it's so stupid. Mm-hmm. And also there's that gratuitous nudity shot of Jenny Agutter where Logan goes, oh, it's so cold. Take off your wet clothes and put on this, winter jacket, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was listening to the audio commentary for it, and Michael York forgot that was in the movie. Mm-hmm. And he does the audio commentary. He talks about the movie and he goes, oh, here's me. Oh, God. Wow. He's like, I forgot that was in there. It's a great little bit in the audio commentary.
Oh man, I gotta check that out. I actually would love to hear audio commentary, especially with Mike Bjork.
It's on the Blu-ray, yeah. The Blu-ray, which is a shameful, horrific Photoshop.
Oh gosh,
cover
yeah, we were
when
talking
there's-
about the cover art for that.
when literally this movie is one of the best posters of the decade.
Oh yeah, easily.
It's not a waste of time to watch it, but it's not something where you would be like, guys, you got to check this movie
Yeah.
out. It's badass,
It's
right?
It's
You
not
wouldn't do
Star
that.
Wars, which ironically was
No,
this was it's funny the time that this came out. This is kind of one of the last of its kind, or at least in this form, because science fiction used to be a very dystopian genre, and it wasn't until I believe the following year Star Wars came out that we actually entered into a new era, like a new, more exciting era of science fiction, where it was hopeful, it was optimistic, it was about heroes and villains and clear lines crossed between light and dark. Whereas these movies, and movies like this, obviously like Blade Runner, were still made afterwards, but this became this became almost a rarity in science fiction. You know what I mean?
if I were to remake Logan's Run, they tell you in the beginning that, after a nuclear war, people got into a big dome and they did this, right?
Mhm.
Which I think is dumb, because I think the movie would be more salient if it was just almost like a Wall-E type idea, where this is the natural way that we're moving as a society, and this is just going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it needed to be brought upon by some cataclysm. It seems like the natural progression of things, right? But I mean, I think I think you're right. You're very much correct in a sense, in terms of as far as a big budget action adventure, space, science fiction, fantasy drama goes. This is very much a last one of its kind, right? You can think of films that came out near it, like Silent Running, or Soylent Green.
Yeah, Soylent Green.
Westworld. They're all they're not. Star Wars is not speculative fiction like this. There's a lot of things in this movie that they were like, wouldn't it be cool if this was in the movie? Let's put a big robot in there. What's he gonna do? I don't know. He's got people frozen in an ice cave.
Yeah.
And then he has a giant gun.
You know what? I think it's
Okay.
it's a good movie with a lot of half-baked ideas. Like if they, I mean, I think
Yes.
the most fleshed out portion of the film is the duality between the world that they've created and the real world that's out there, and what actually exists in like one of the things that I thought was really fascinating was when they get outside and they're talking to the old man played by, oh gosh, what's his name?
Yeah,
Peter-
he was terrible.
Oh, you didn't like
He
him?
was off. No, I thought he was horrible.
Oh.
The naming of cats is a difficult matter. It's not just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm mad as a hatter when I tell you that each cat got 3 different names.
Well, yeah.
I mean, as like a
I was
decrepit old man who's
Next.
he's probably gone mad because he doesn't have anybody around him. I thought he did a good job.
McCavity. There's no one like McCavity. There never was a cat of such deceitfulness and suavity.
I was gonna go mad watching him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Peter Ustinov,
my cat.
that's his name.
Where are you going?
The most interesting thing is at the end when they're making their way back to the dome, and he talks about mother and father, husband and wife, and they're like, huh, I'd like that, Logan. I'd like to be bonded forever. Like the concept is so foreign to them. It's like they're rediscovering what it means to live, which makes this whole live thing a little more poignant. If it was
you're deracinated from any idea of having a lineage, right?
Yeah.
You have no mother, you have no father, you have no frame of reference for who you are other than what you consume and what you do, right? Yeah. There's no larger idea of you as a person, no heritage, nothing to draw from. You're just born in a deal. You have a red stone, and it's like, have fun until you die. But you even talk about the scene with where you can just go and get plastic surgery all the time or whatever. Well, I don't see why that kind of a future machine wouldn't be able to just change your gender, or you know what I mean? It could probably do that too if you wanted it to. So I mean, I think what the movie is about is it's a movie in which as a hedonistic person, look, I have no problem with having a good time and going and hang out and fuck around for a little while, especially when you're young. But the movie could be read as a metaphor for hey, guess what? There's that old famous hippie adage, don't trust anybody over 30, right?
Mm.
And I think you have a lot of young people that are like, once I'm 30, I'm fucking dead, dude. Like, I will suck, right? I got to live now because I'm young, right? I think the movie could also have something to say about, like, life's not over when you're 30, dude. Like, there's so much more to discover, and, like, don't put that off,
Yeah.
right? Have kids, have a family, because who's going to take care of your fucking ass when you're 70 years old, right? The movie, I think, ultimately is about questioning the sacred cows of your own society. And it coincides with the idea too of the hunter becoming the hunted, right? Yeah. I was on the upper end of society. Now that I crossed a line, now I am an undesirable, like the people I used to hunt.
Yeah.
Is society fair to me? Is society just? Now that I'm on the receiving end of brutality. The interesting idea is you become the undesirable person in your society, whether that be because we're doing an analogy for like prejudice and walking in the moccasins, as it were, of like that like lower class person in your society, the John Rawls idea, or is it I've now found myself outmoded because I'm no longer young, and by that, like, in sort of like an industrialized society like we live in. I don't want to sound like Ted Kaczynski here, but like people get anxiety about, I don't know how to use the newest computer and tools and stuff. Am I outmoded? Am I going to be put out to pasture? Am I going to be replaced? Am I done? Right. And that's kind of what I think the movie is about, more than really age. It could have been anything. It could have been, once you grow a red toenail, you have to get kicked out of, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I slightly disagree with the hunter becoming the hunted thing, just because that's like I think it's a very surface level plot. I think it definitely plays a significant part in the story, but I do think it's about ultimately, like, I was fascinated by the fact that they live in a world full of worldly pleasures and just instant gratification, which is very similar to our world today. And I think it's about choosing what's good for living for something greater than your body, living for your soul. When they see that, like, you can get old and there's actually a life beyond just the simple pleasures of the world, there's a chance for society to actually rebuild itself in a pure and glorious way, in the ways that, again, speaking as a Catholic, as the ways God intended us to live, as opposed to the way man wants us to live, which is surrounding yourself in constant sexual gratification and gluttony and plastic surgery, making yourself youthful or young or changing your face completely, all that stuff.
You made a good critique of my stance, which you said, well, I feel like that critique of mine about, the hunter becoming the hunted or whatever is kind of a surface level thing. And maybe you're right. The reason I latched onto it and thought it was interesting was because we see it so much in science fiction films. I was thinking, well, this idea must be resonating somewhere on a, in the society. People are attracted to these types of stories, right? But it might also be that it's just a really good plot framework to hang an action sci-fi movie on, right? Oh
yeah,
sci-fi movies chase. It seems like the sci-fi film is more. It's really susceptible to the chase movie. Terminator 2. We're on the run. We're running. We're hiding. You know what I'm saying? We're being chased by the villain.
Intentionally or unintentionally, the movie is trying to say something deeper about society and about life, and that there are better things to pursue that will satisfy your soul far greater than these worldly pleasures. And for better or for worse, that's what I got out of it.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this episode. If you'd like to hear the entire uncut audio conversation that Vince and I had, you can find that on my podcast, George Dahl's Film Journal, on iTunes or Spotify. And don't forget to reach out and listen to Vince's show and download his podcast. He is far more prolific in releasing episodes than me and speaks a lot on contemporary films, more than I do. But thanks so much for being fans of the Film Journal, and I'll talk to you soon.